Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our weekly lecture on purifying our heart. Today we will continue with our topic. We will start inshallah by the dua. Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. O turner of the hearts, make my heart steadfast in your deen. Allahumma akhrijni min dhulumatil waham wa akrimni binuril fahm. O Allah, bring me out of the layers of darknesses of illusion and honor me with the nur, with the light of understanding. Last time we were talking about how Islam is freedom, and we talk about the mind, and I said in this section we will talk more about it. But before we go deeper in the mind, I want to share with you a dua, which is a dua that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught us in case of anxiety. The translation of the dua is, O Allah, I am your slave, and the son of your slave, and the son of your slave, meaning the son of your male slave and the son of your female slave. My forehead is in your hand. Your judgment upon me is assured, and your decree concerning me is just. I ask you by every name that you've named yourself with, revealed in your book, taught any of your creation, or kept unto yourself in the knowledge of the unseen that is with you, to make the Quran the spring of my heart and the light of my chest, the banisher of my sadness and the reliever of my distress. So let's go and try to understand this dua. We are calling upon our Creator, upon our Lord, which is our Creator, our Sustainer, our Nourisher, our Guide. And we are asking Him to relieve us from the grief, from the sadness, from the distress, from the anxiety. And the words that we use is first recognizing that we are His slave, that we are 100% dependent on Him, that we have no power or control over our affairs except what He allows us to, which is only, as I mentioned before, a choice. And not only we are His slave, but we are son, we are the daughter, we are the child of His slaves. Our parents, our husband, our children, our boss are as a slave of Allah as we are. Therefore, what they can do for us is limited because they cannot even do it for themselves. And when we talk about slavery, we need not to see it from the dunya perception of being humiliated, of having no rank or having no importance. That is not the meaning of Abdullah, the slave of Allah. It's rather seeing ourselves as His creatures, as His creation. So 100, 200, 1,000% dependent on Him. Absolutely. From every aspect. And we have talked about it before. That is the concept that we need to keep in mind when we say that we are the slaves of Allah. And we are children of His slave. Yani, all of us are completely dependent on the Creator. My forehead, and keep this word in mind, is in your hand. This means you have control over me. Your judgment upon me is assured, and your decree concerning me is just. There is no escape of the judgment. And the judgment not necessarily is a bad judgment. Everything that Allah decree and declare, it goes. And whatever He decree and declare is just. And even more than just, is merciful. Then we ask Him by every name that you've named yourself with, revealed in your book, taught any one of your creation, or kept unto yourself in the knowledge of the unseen that is with you. So we call you by all the names that you taught the prophets, the ones that we know and the ones that we do not know, the ones that are in the Quran, the ones that are in the Sunnah, the ones that are in the past generations and Sharias and revelations and that are not with us, or the ones that you kept to yourself and did not reveal to us because we did not have the intelligence to comprehend them, or because He did not want to. Okay, by all those names, by all those attributes, mercy, acceptance, acceptor of repentance, the one who forgives, the one who gives, the one who guides, the one who opens the path for us, the one who creates, the one who fashions, the one who originates, all the names. At the end, our life is just manifestation of His names. Every moment of our existence is just open to a name of Allah. And by all those names and attributes, we ask Him. What do we ask Him? We ask Him to make the Quran the spring of my heart. What does that mean? What is the Quran? The Quran is His revelation. And the Quran is not limited to what we think the Quran is, which is the text itself. That's the Quran in this dunya. The Quran is His speech, is His word. And we ask Allah to make it the spring of our heart is by following it, by make the Quran descend upon us happiness, peace, tranquility, to be a spring, to flourish in us. Because in the Quran we find the answers. We find the teachings that we need in order to live a life, a productive, happy life. And we ask Him to make this revelation the light of our chest, the nur, the one that leads us to see what is right and what's wrong, to have a criteria, and the vanisher of my sadness and the reliever of my distress. Basically, I recognize myself as His servant and how nobody around me can do anything for me, not even my parents. How my forehead is on His hand. How everything that He has declared and decreed for me is just and it has no doubt. It is what it is. So even if I'm living in a situation which is sad, is just, let me see the justice in it. And we ask Him by all His names. In base of His names, His names are, the creation is the manifestation of His names. And even our situations are the manifestations of His names. To make His guidance, which is the Quran, our spring and our light of discernment. And with that, to take away our sadness and relieve our distress. Ameen. For that, we obviously need to read the Quran. In order for us in the Quran to be the spring of our heart, we need to have a closer relationship with the Quran. We need to read it. We need to read it. And I will say something. I know that reciting the Quran and listening to the recitation of the Quran is healing itself. It is a healing, but we also need to read it. And if we do not understand Arabic, then we should find a good translation, which will give us an approximation of its meaning, because we need to connect to the word of Allah. It's not only memorizing it without understanding what we are reading. No doubt that if we memorize it without understanding it, it has its benefits. Of course it does. But for our understanding and our belief system to be clean, we need also to understand what we are reciting. It's a very important thing. So anyway, let's move on. Keep the word forehead in your hand, because forehead in Arabic is nasia, okay? Also were translated before as the forelock, okay? So we will talk about anxiety and the mind. So these are two definitions. I want you to read this, okay? The prefrontal cortex, which is just where we call the forehead, okay? Inside us, the brain, that's the area that is like close to the forehead. It's known today by science that anxiety in animals and humans appears to disrupt brain neurons in the prefrontal cortex that are critical for making smart decisions. So anxiety, which is a disruption in our brain, which affects this area, the forehead, the mind, what we call the mind, the thinking, it's gonna make us not take decisions that are not really smart. And we know that over impulses, we take decisions that are not really smart, okay? So this area of the brain plays a part in impulse control, judgment, language, memory, motor function, problem solving, sexual behavior, socialization, and spontaneity. Also assist in planning, coordinating, controlling, and executing behavior. Okay, fine, it got its meaning. It has this is a part of our body that Allah gave us. It's a gift. It has its functions. We need to use it wisely, but there is a problem. And I will talk about the problem. How we make our mind our God. And this is, when we talk about purifying the nafs, I did not see how can we talk about it without talking about this first. Because I said earlier, there's no point on me talking about a disease itself or anything if my mindset is not what it has to be. So I'm not saying that part of the brain is bad, is good, but it's in the hand of Allah, meaning Allah has control on us. And there is a point in our life where we need to put the pen down, raise our hands, and let the Lord take control, which He always had. But we need to stop acting like we had it before, understand? It's like when you carry a child and he's just fighting you in order for you to leave him alone because he wants to do whatever he wants. And he's crying and he's putting all his energy. And he's so small, he cannot beat you. He's very small, he doesn't have the same strength that you have. Then yet he thinks that he can achieve anything by behaving like that. It's exactly the same that we are doing. We are hitting and fighting and screaming and shouting and cursing and being harsh on ourselves and other people because we think that like that we will reach somewhere. So there is a moment where we just have to put there is no, if you think about it, mashallah, there is this beautiful wisdom why we put our forehead in the floor 5 times a day for prayer. Because we are subjugating what most of us humans today made of it our God, our little mini God. Okay, we are giving it to the real Lord, to the real God, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and telling him, you got control. I let go. And let's go back to the meaning of submission. Now go back to the meaning of submission. All the submission that I talked about. And you will understand now maybe better what I said, why submission is freedom. Why is accepting? Why is it letting go? Let the mind, fulfill its functions. But do not make the mind your mini God. And we will see what happens. It's like everything starts. This is the system of the dunya, by the way. Everything starts when we perceive ourselves and look at selves between, selves as our thinking mind. Okay? And there is this famous saying by René Descartes, I think, therefore I am. And we took it really seriously. I think our society, our history, even like we remember this in school, in philosophy. Like this was the things that we learn because our system in this dunya is designed like that. We think that we are our thinking mind. We think we are what crosses our prefrontal cortex. We think we are that. A weak heart is affected by something called wiswas, which are thoughts that are meant to build more of that fake belief system. So let's call the fake belief system what was called in the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the Jahiliyyah, the ignorance. We will call it in these lectures the fake belief system. Okay, so we have a fake belief system mainly formed by wiswas, which are thoughts that we cannot control, that they just come into our mind, and that thinking mind believing that whatever it's crossing there, it's true. So if it crosses my mind, it's true. Okay? And having a belief system based in this, I think, therefore I am. Meaning, I think first, then I am. Basically, I am based on my thoughts. And I do not doubt that maybe this philosopher meant something higher than what we understood, but we understood in a very low level, and Allah knows best. Okay? The fake belief system is based on the idea that we are separated, that we are different entities, that we are victims of our environment, and that we need to defend ourselves in order to survive. This is how our fake personality is built. I will go back to it. The fake belief system is based on the idea that we are separated entities, victims of the environment, and that we need to defend ourselves in order to survive. This is how our fake personality is built. So, we have this idea that our mind says the truth, whatever it crosses my mind, whatever was come to me, that is it, that is the reality. So that's my fake belief system. And that fake belief system supports itself by believing that we are separate, that we got nothing to do, that there is no source from where we all come that keep us connected, which is the one, the core, the source, the reality, the truth, the haq, the intelligent, the divine intelligence, Allah. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so we are like thinking we got nothing to do. So God is something far away there that got nothing to do with us. He created us and put us here by chance, and then whatever dealing is between you and me got nothing to do with me or you. Whatever it happens to me is your fault. You make me angry. You make me upset. You make me sad. You broke my heart. You. Me nothing. Me the victim. You the aggressor. And because I'm a victim and I'm tired of suffering, I am like this. I am like this because the world made me like this. I am like this because life made me like this. Life is unjust. What we will do, nothing to do. apathy, negligence, sadness, darkness, pain, all of that comes from that fake belief system. So that's my personality. That's why I'm rude. That's why I'm like this. That's why I'm arrogant. That's why, because I think that if I don't behave like, I need to behave like this in order to defend myself from the environment, because I'm the victim of everyone. And I have no responsibility whatsoever with myself. Are you familiar with this? Is it like sounding familiar to you? Because the moment that this sounds familiar to you, everything starts making sense. You are like, oh yeah, remember. And there will be things, by the way, when we start doing that, it's like, yeah, okay, I can agree with regards to this situation, but this one, no, this one, I was really the victim. Because the ego or the self or the thinking mind start defending its identity. You cannot tell me that everything about me is a lie, because you will leave me without my system. And if you leave me without my system, you will break my structure. And then I'm no one. How can you tell me today I'm no one when I have lived years building myself, building this image about myself? So we don't accept that. We can't deal with it. It's too much for us. That's why we defend it. And I am like this, and this is my personality. And I'm not saying, by the way, that souls in their real nature, they have tendencies. Of course they do. Some people are funny by nature, and some people are serious by nature, and some people are like this by nature or like that. But added to that naturality and that reality and that authenticity, there is a lot of fake things that we have built around it, to the point that we don't know what is natural and what is not. We think everything it is. I am serious, and I am like this, and I don't accept that, and da-da-da-da-da. Let me tell you something. Whatever is natural of you gives you peace. Whatever is not natural of you produces you pain. Yet you defend it. Then yet you're faithful to it. Like if it's a god, like if it's a deity to worship. No matter how much you suffer about it, you keep it there. So I fight with somebody, my system tells me that I can never talk to that person again, because I need to be faithful to my system. And if I talk to that person and I forgive her, then I will lose my essence, which is not really my essence, but I believe it is. That is the fake belief system. That is the fake belief system. And our personality is built there. It's built in that. How can I, from my fake belief system, try to change somebody's fake belief system? That's why it doesn't work. Everybody's trying to defend their identity because they believe. It's like you need to understand that this is like a survival method. In order to survive, you need to defend who you think you are. Because if I break your rules, if I break your beliefs, okay, then you will feel that you don't know who you are. And nobody can take that. That's a very uncomfortable feeling at the beginning. That's why defense comes. So when I try to change somebody, it's like I'm rejecting the person, first of all. Second, I'm rejecting who he thinks he is. And that person is trying to survive emotionally. And for the unconscious, there is no difference between emotional and physical. It's a war in which one of us has to win this and need to survive. And by the way, everything we experience in the exterior life, in the apparent life, it's the reflection of what is going on inside. So when I experience conflict with people around me, it's because I am internally living in conflict with myself. Only like that, I will be able to experience that conflict. Otherwise, if I'm a person in peace and I find myself in a conflict, I won't see it as a conflict. I will see it as in a situation where I will analyze myself, but for me, there is no conflict. Okay? Everything is internally experienced and then externally reflected. All right? So the mind cannot see beyond perception. The mind uses the senses. The senses perceive something. That's why the eyes, when we say Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba', I love that dua, because really, and when we are saying this, Allah show me the truth as it is really, not as I'm perceiving it, because I am perceiving this matter as something bad or as something good. But only the heart can really perceive the truth. Okay, so when the mind can only take what the physical senses take, and then it makes it its interpretation, yani its perception. And when I believe that my perception is the only thing true, is the only thing that exists, I experience fear and pain. Because I am in the opposite state of Iman, which is security. I experience fear for the future, anxiety, and pain for the past. Because I cannot be in security. I don't feel at security. I don't feel in a place of Iman, of faith, of a space of belief, of tranquility, of security. We will call it security. Okay? So when we say that Islam forbids us from making assumptions, from spying on others, from this, from that, it's a way of helping us to get away from this fake belief system. This, what I'm talking about, didn't need to be talked about 100 years ago. People knew it. It was inner part of knowledge. Like we know that 2 and 2 is 4. Like nobody makes a lecture about it anymore. Understand me? Because we lost this meaning. We lost the sense of understanding this. So we need to be reminded. Okay? So what happens when I have the perception of something, an emotion gets triggered inside me, and I believe it's real. So if I perceive a situation as humiliating, I will feel humiliated. Therefore, I will have a lot of discomfort, sadness, anger, whatever. But it was my perception. Okay, you might say, and we swear to this fake belief system that is real. We swear that it really was a humiliation. And that is how conflict happens between people. Because everyone has his own perception about reality. So when I have my own perception about reality, and the other person has his perception about reality, only conflict can be here. We are not talking based on reality. We are talking based on our perceptions that we do not call perceptions. We call it, I know it. I know what you did. I know what you meant. Don't you think that I know you? I know you very well. You said that, and you made me feel like this, and it's all your fault. And the other person starts, no, I didn't do that. I didn't mean that. You didn't understand. And then, yes, you think I'm stupid. Now you're calling me stupid. And then there you go. Like you got, the script? We know by memory. We can't even continue it. We can't even say it all at the same time. Because this is how we've been living and how we've been working, and this is our fake belief system. This is our jahiliyyah. What happens is very interesting, because either we became Muslim or we were born Muslim, but at the end of the day, we never left our jahiliyyah behind. We never did a process of, okay, let me think, is this action that I do correct? Is this Islamic or not? We don't think about it. Then when the other person comes and gives an advice, Islam says to not spy. Oh no, I'm not spying. I know Islam says to not that you should not make assumptions. Islam says that. I'm not assuming. I know very well what you're doing. This is very different from assuming. I'm not assuming anything. I'm seeing it in front of me. I am seeing how you're acting. You don't need. It's not about an assumption. We believe it. And we suffer a great deal because life has no meaning. Relationships have no meaning. Then we need to go and find another relationships. another friends, another husband, another whatever, another job, another family, another, if we can get rid of everyone, we would. If we could change our kids, we would. If we could change our parents, we would. Because we think that there is something wrong with the people. What's wrong with these people? What's wrong with this one? And we don't see that all what is wrong with them is the same thing that is wrong with me. And it's that we all have this fake belief system that we swear to be the truth. We believe it. We believe it to the point that we made it our God. And we are slaves to our mind. Slaves to our mind. Okay? The mind is always resisting. The mind does not submit unless it's mastered. That's why we put our forehead in the floor. That's why we're saying to Allah, my forehead is in your hand. Meaning you got control on me. We are, believing in this mentality. We live in this matrix. And we think, we think that we are true, and we cannot submit to the reality. We cannot. The mind is in a state of resistance. The mind is in a state of no submission. So what is the part of us that submits to Allah? Is the soul. Is the bigger part of us. It's our consciousness. Okay? The untrained nerves or mind is a wild beast which dominates us. And I want you to ask yourself how many times you have had a thought that is not real. For example, you had an issue with someone, and then you think, next time I will see her, and then you make a movie in your mind about how it's gonna see, and then you actually feel the emotions, and sometimes you can even feel sad or cry or laugh. And you experience a life, and you create and recreate something like to such an extent that it affects your emotion, and then you say, oh, I feel sad. How many times you've heard a song, you've listened to a music, and then it makes you sad or happy, and then you really believe, I'm so sad. Today I feel sad. Let me listen to this song so that it makes me more sad even. And then I cry. How many times that has happened in your life, especially when we are younger? Okay? How many times our mood depends on what we see, what we think, what we listen? Because we believe in our mind. We believe in our thoughts. We believe that our thoughts are truthful. In Arabic, psychology is called ilmun nafs, the knowledge of the nafs, subhanallah. And according to Islam, there are human beings got 4 enemies. The nafs, which is, we call it the low self. We can call it in psychology the thoughts, the mind, which is opposite to ruh, which is the high self, and we can call it in psychology the consciousness. Hawa, or desires, shaitan, and dunya, which is different to alam. Alam, which is like alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Alam is world, and is full of signs. Okay, that's why the root word alam comes from. It's full of signs that lead us to the Creator. But dunya, when we talk about alam, the tree, the creation, it's not dunya. That is not dunya. Dunya is more like the perception that we have about this alam, the way we live. Let's call it our fake belief system. That we think we are here for what reasons. Like, for example, we know that the reality of this world is that we are here temporarily, but sometimes we act like we are going to be here forever. That is our dunya. Okay, that's the tendency of human being to forget his purpose in life. That is the dunya. Dunya means the low, the closest. So nafs can be defined in psychology as the thinking mind. And the first step to master the nafs is to stop identifying ourselves with our thoughts, okay? Meaning that now you need to become aware that you are not what you think, and your thoughts are not the truth. The mind does not create consciousness. This is a very important thing. Consciousness is beyond the mind. Okay? Consciousness is beyond the mind. Consciousness is not, the mind does not create consciousness. Consciousness is given to us. It's like our ruh. Okay? Our instrument which we think and the wiswas that come from outside is not our consciousness. That's why who knows himself knows his Lord. This is how we start knowing ourselves, knowing that I'm not what I think. I am not what I'm thinking. What I think about myself is not who I am. What I think about my neighbor is not who he is. The wiswas that come to my mind is not true, it's not real. Now you might say, well, sometimes I have thoughts that are real. Well, we have reasoning, isn't it? Akal, intellect. But it's an instrument, it's a means. Now, how we become conscious of ourselves? When we come out of ourselves, we come out. Imagine, just sit and let your mind flow in thoughts. Can you see those thoughts? There is a consciousness above you that can be conscious and aware of those thoughts. That is what is called being present. It's when you take control of yourself. And when you see your thoughts coming and you see them walking towards around, but you let them go. You use them if you need to, and if they are not useful, you let them go. But you don't believe them anymore. You don't believe them anymore. So if a thought comes to me and says, you are such a bad person, I don't believe it anymore. So if I don't believe it, I will not produce an emotion, which is sadness inside me, or frustration, or anger, or pain. There will not be pain. I will observe it. Is it useful thought? No, let it go. Another thought can be, why don't you do extra prayer? Useful? Yes, useful. Take it, follow it, use it. Take your thoughts as the voice of Allah or the angel that is telling you to do good. You're the enemy that is telling you to do bad. Okay? So whatever is useful, use it. Whatever is not useful, leave it. You know, the companion, the jinn companion is not always telling you to do things. It's also telling you things about yourself or about others for you to believe them. Oh, that person is so stupid. And because it crossed your mind, you thought it was real. Then you take it and you believe it and it produces a feeling. And then another voice comes and says, no, this is not true. And then the other voice says, you're so bad, you think people are bad. And we let shaitan trick us all the time. It's a trick. And then a war starts in our heart. A war starts in our heart. And we start feeling really overwhelmed because we feel we are this awful human being that is thinking bad about people. Spiritual ego. Okay? Let them go. Don't be afraid. They are just thoughts. They are not you. Be conscious. Be aware of them. Be on top of them. Observe them. Look at them. And let them go. But if you become nervous, if you become anxious, You can enter in a state of panic because you think that is you thinking that and that you are crazy. And you want to stop it and you don't know how to do it, and sometimes you fall in a state of panic because you don't know how to control your thoughts. You don't need you don't know how to observe them and know that you are not them, that you are outside or higher than them, that your ruh is this consciousness who can see them, this everything that happens in you. And it's like you let it go. The more you try to kick them out of your mind, more they will persist because it's a trick of shaitan. Let them go. Don't be slave to your thoughts. Because being a slave to your thoughts is like you mount them and go around them and go away from you, from the now, from the presence, from the present. But look at them. Look at the thought. Is it useful? Okay, use it. Is it not useful? Ignore it. But since from a space of peace, because consciousness is peace. Consciousness is alert, is awareness. It's not as scared, it's awake. It sees the reality of things. It sees that that doesn't make any sense. So when I see myself in a situation and my mind want to bring out, okay, so I should behave like this because this person or that, blah, 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 blah. My consciousness take over and say, why? This is a fake behavior. It's not real. What you perceive is not real. Let it go. That's your nature. That's your ruh. That's your real you, your essence. You are bigger and higher than your thoughts. We are not our mind. We cannot control our thoughts initially since we don't know this information. But then we start not controlling them, letting them go and finding a place of peace, and then they don't have any need to come back. Certain kinds of thoughts will start vanishing, especially those that you reject, especially those that you are afraid of, because they have no effect. Shaitan needs to change his trick. Okay? So sakina and consciousness. Islam erases any previous mindset that is an ideology. Ideology is dogmas and belief. Ideology is something like ideology. It's like something like worshipping the idea. A dogma of belief, okay? It's like ideology, kind of. So Islam teaches us how we are more than our mind. That we are consciousness, which is the space and the silence. When we think about the consciousness, when we experience consciousness, we feel like there is this huge space and silence. This is called sakina. The consciousness, when we start being conscious, we enter in a state of sakina. Okay? And within this state, we can observe everything in us, our thoughts, our reactions, our emotions. But let's talk about the thoughts. I can observe the thoughts. I can think this woman is tall. And I can see myself thinking this. Something bigger than me. It's like if I get out of my body and I can see myself having this thinking. Okay? So for example, if I say this person is scary and I'm outside myself looking at this thought, I won't feel scared of that person. And I will see it's a thought and it's a lie. But if I'm not, if I'm controlled by my mind, I will think this person is scary and I will feel scared. Because I'm not being conscious. So, when you observe the thought, you do not identify with it anymore. You don't believe it. You don't believe it. So when the thought comes and say, you are stupid, you don't believe it. You know it's not true. It's not true. Nobody is stupid. You see, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us all aql and intellect and capacity of knowing Him. And if you're conscious of yourself, you are being everything except stupid. Be sure about that. So you see it and you let it go, you will not feel sad anymore. You will not believe it. Because you realize that you are consciousness, observing the thoughts, and you are not the thought itself. You are not the stupid that the thinking is telling you that you are. You are consciousness observing this thought. You are bigger than that. You are bigger than yourself. That is when you start connecting to your soul. That is your ruh there, taking over. Your higher self. This is your higher self taking over. Your higher self. Okay? You are not your thoughts. You are outside of them. Okay, we can understand that. Once you practice this, you experience sakina, silence and no movement. It's like peace. So, if I have a situation and I say this is gonna drive me crazy, and I see it from my consciousness, what is crossing my mind, I don't believe it anymore. I know it's not true. So I don't feel anxious. Because I know that my thoughts cannot drive me crazy. Okay? And that the situation I'm experiencing outside is very limited to what I actually am. I am bigger than that. I can see from my consciousness how my body is getting tired from a situation, how my mind is tired, how my mind starts producing thoughts, how my senses are perceiving something, how my ears maybe are tired of listening to something, my tongue is tired of speaking something. I can see how I'm feeling about it, but since I'm outside, it's stopped having an effect on me. And I'm on control. My higher self got control on me. So when you know that you are that consciousness, you know Allah. You start knowing your Lord. And you don't feel separated from Him anymore. You don't feel distant from Him anymore. You don't feel like He's something far away that got nothing to do with you. And this is the movement or the space of life from where we can move and start having a productive, fruitful life. There is something called thought, emotion, reactional pattern. Now it sounds complicated, but it's really easy. I have a thought, that thought produces an emotion, and that emotion produces a reaction. And a pattern is formed. Every time I have a thought that produces that emotion, I have a reaction. And it repeats itself again and again and again and again. And I say, I don't know why I cannot stop acting the same way. I try to change. What is changing actually? When I say I will change, I promise you I will change. What is changing? We cannot change unless we see all of this. We cannot force ourselves. We cannot tame ourselves. If we tame ourselves, sooner or later, the fake personality is going to collapse. The fake personality of being spiritual is going to collapse. The fake personality of being self-control is going to collapse. The only way to break with this thought, emotional, reactional pattern is seeing, observing it, having a thought. I go back to it again. You are stupid. Okay, I saw the thought, how I feel about it. Right now I cannot feel it, I cannot feel about it because I have been saying it for me, this is the example I've been using. And I'm like, kind of don't believe it anymore. But I will try to recall how I used to feel before about it. I feel awful. I feel stupid, actually. I feel sad to think like that about myself. Right? And then I see it. And then sadness is produced. And then I do a reaction. Maybe it's a different reaction. Everybody got a different reaction. Some people eat sweet, some people eat chocolate, some people don't eat, some people stop eating, some people go, do something, watch TV. I mean, like there is something that they do. That's how some people use drugs. That's how some people are alcoholic. Because there is a thought, emotion, reactional pattern. And they are looking for something to make them come out of that thinking that is making them feel awful about themselves. Whatever the thought it is. What happens if you take consciousness and you look at it? What happens if you become aware of your thoughts? What happens if you're aware of that thought, then you are aware of the emotion and you see it. The first time you will see it. You will see it in your heart. How the emotion is produced, and observe the emotion. Then we will move from observing the thought and we will move to observe the emotion. And we will let ourselves feel it. What we do is, because we are unconscious, we try to deny that feeling. No, I am not feeling anything. Rejecting it. And it grows deeper and deeper, the pain, and the belief becomes stronger and stronger. But if I become conscious, I see the thought, I see the emotion, and therefore I can control my reaction and break the pattern. So awareness, which is consciousness helps us to come to presence, to come to the now, and be free from the effects of our thoughts. Following blindly our thoughts lead us to perceptions. Perceptions is, what we perceive, and then that build up the system of fake beliefs. This is called ghafla. And when I said ghafla, we are coming to the first disease of the heart that we are going to talk about. Submission versus apathy. And I want to clarify this, because if I feel, sometimes I feel like, okay, I submitted myself. But we should not confuse submission with an attitude of nothing bothers me, I don't care. Because that attitude is contaminated by negativity. And it is a way of hidden resentment and mask resistance. It's like saying to the world, I am going to be in this attitude, let's see for how long you will keep me in it. One day you have to change. And that is not submission. Submission comes from peace. Apathy, negligence comes from negativity. Submission is waiting for Allah to show us the action to be taken. But it comes from a place of peace, not a place of rejection. Apathy comes from rejection. And so when I leave a situation, my state of submission is questioning in a different way. I will not say anymore why this happened to me and become the victim of the world, but what for? And I become the proactive. I become the main character of my story, and I take charge and control of it, and I said, what is the benefit of this situation in my life? What is it calling me to? What is it leading me to? And when that happens, I am assuming myself 100%. Assuming myself 100%. At that moment, we will bless our enemies, because thanks to them we know what we need to change. That is when gratitude is produced inside. There is gratitude for the experience lived. There is gratitude for the moment, for that being able to see, for that being able to experience, because without you, I wouldn't be able to see myself. Without this situation, I wouldn't be able to know what is there for me to change. And we will talk more about it in the future. And I want to share this with you because it's really interesting. There are two hormones talking about physical level. That is serotonin and cortisol produced by the brain. Cortisol is produced when the body is under stress, such as anger, anxiety, fear. It inflames the organs, damage the body. When it's very elevated, can put us at risk of diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, heart disease, digestive disorders, infertility, chronic fatigue syndrome, thyroid, immune system disorders. And cortisol is produced when we are, from where do you think? Living from where? From our consciousness? Obviously not. It's when we are living from our mind, because our mind starts making assumptions about everything that is happening to us. Okay? So cortisol levels can be reduced with prayer, meditation, and breathing. In Arabic, breathing, the word tanaffus in Arabic is also from nafs, from the same root word. There is a relationship, because we know nafs is the spirit which is blown in us. So there is a good technique in breathing in order to calm our mind, our thinking mind, our nafs. To master it is to practice conscious breathing, which is to take a breath, sit in an appropriate position, breathe in and out, letting our stomach expand and let all the air inside. And, exhaling the breathing, exhaling the air slowly and doing it many times. You will feel that when you do this exercise, your body starts relaxing, your mind starts calming down, your body the pain start going, and you start finding tranquility, sakina. So it's a very, very important exercise, and it's really beautiful that in Arabic is related, like nafs and tanaffus. And in the other hand, we have another hormone produced by the brain, which is called serotonin, which is let's say the cortisol is like the selfish hormone, the nasty one, which is necessary for us to survive. Obviously, we need it. It has its purpose, but we should not let it go crazy. And then there is the serotonin, which is the key hormone for happiness. It regulates the mood, prevents depression, etc., 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 make us more social, etc. The way to produce it is to think, subhanallah, happy thoughts. Since your brain produces serotonin when you remember happy memories or think about things that make you happy, breathing, praying, making dhikr, our way socializing and to having good conversations, not nasty conversations, help us to produce serotonin. Okay, so imagine if you are having a moment of stress and your cortisol levels are going crazy and you cannot control your mind, just engage yourself in dhikr. Okay, isn't it in the dhikr that the hearts find tranquility? Okay, so yeah, there is this hadith. Let's see the hadith for anxiety. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, if anyone constantly seeks pardon from Allah, yani make istighfar, and Allah will appoint for him a way out of every distress and relief from every anxiety, and will provide sustenance for him from where he expects not. There is a beautiful dua, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-hazn wa dala'i dain wa ghalabatir rijal. O Allah, I seek refuge in you from grief and anxiety, from the hardships of death, and from being overpowered by men. Subhanallah, death is something that really makes us anxious. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from it, and also to relieve us from these diseases, grief and anxiety. Another hadith says, if anyone remove his brother's anxiety of this world, Allah will remove for him one of the anxieties of the day of resurrection. If anyone makes easy for an impoverished man, Allah will make it easy for him in this world and on the day of resurrection. If anyone conceals a Muslim's secrets, Allah will conceal his secrets in this world and on the day of resurrection. Allah will remain in the aid of a servant so long as the servant remains in the aid of his brother. SubhanAllah, this is such a beautiful hadith. If you remove the anxiety from a person, if you help in any way to remove an anxiety, you are removing a big pain from this person. His body will produce more serotonin, inshallah. And you will help him to control his thinking mind. And if you make it easy for him, imagine all the benefit that you can give to your brother in Islam, or your brother in humanity, not necessarily in Islam. Okay? If you do this, and if you conceal his secret, what happens when you expose the secrets of people? People become really anxious. It's a very painful thing. Okay? And then if you do that, Allah will do the same for you in this dunya and in the day of resurrection. And as long as you help a human being, Allah will help you always. Always. Okay? And another hadith says, it is a fact that I give to one. Well, it's a long hadith, but the part of Rasulullah ﷺ says, it is a fact that I give to one and overlook to another. This is because the Sahabas were complaining that he gives attention more to some than other. And he says, the one I ignore is dearer to me than the one I give. I give to those in whose hearts I perceive anxiety. Others I leave with the richness and contentment that Allah has put in their hearts. MashaAllah, it's such a beautiful hadith. He could see beyond. He had a beautiful basira, seeing with his heart. And he knew when somebody needed him. And the person who was, Allah put contentment and riches, richness in his heart, it was okay. He didn't need the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to give him all the attention. But there were people that really needed him. And sometimes we need more help from others and other people. Other people can do on their own. Other people don't need to go to therapy. Other people don't need to talk to their problems with anybody. But some people do need. Some people need help. Some people need help that you take their hand and take them out of this vicious circle. So let us be the ones, now that you have this knowledge and you apply it on yourself, be the one who give the hand to everybody you know that needs it. And not by lecturing it and saying you are having a fake belief system and you are really, really crap. That's not the way, right? But it's more like understanding what he's going through and slowly taking him to a liberation from his self. Or not as self itself, but of this thinking mind. And with this, we finish the lesson for today. Until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.